Hello, and you're listening to the AI Moment with me, Jonathan Wagstaffe.
And me, Danny Denhard. Today, we're going to dive into the problem with lazy AI. And what we mean by lazy AI is where you've probably received a number of different pieces of outreach, whether that's an email, a LinkedIn request, um, or some sort of WhatsApp or iMessage. And what really grates my goat is when people are really lazy with AI and they haven't really thought about what that means. So Jonathan and I are going to tackle it today. So Jonathan, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, as like you, I've seen and been the recipient of a number of pieces which are which are worse than nothing in that they're actively off-putting, aren't they? Because they're so obviously somebody's taken an AI output and they've just banged it into an email or a LinkedIn message or something like that and fired it at you. And there's been so little thought that I think they really put people off and damage your brand quite badly. I saw one that somebody else shared last week where the first line of the thing was, well, I'm reaching out to you because, and then the next line, it was third party. It was talking about this guy in the third party saying he thinks this. So they not only had they done this thing on air, they're not even proofread it. They've not even checked it or anything. And I think it's really dangerous because I think what will happen, we're moving into a far more personalized world. I think what's coming through as one of the most important things in business, sales, marketing is the kind of human authenticity. And this flies in the face of that. My first piece of advice will be, by all means, help use AI to help you draft and craft that message, but make sure the final version is one that you've read and approved and written and is something that feels like it comes from you. So by all means, use AI to help you structure the message and make sure you don't miss any points, but make sure the final one feels like it was written by you and is the sort of thing you would say. That way you stand a chance. If you're lazily using AI, it's probably worse than doing nothing. You're probably damaging your brand quite badly. What have you seen, Dan?
I've seen quite a lot of this, very similar. What people tend to forget when they do outreach is they instantly think quantity versus quality, and that really frustrates me greatly, especially with the ramp up of automated DMs on LinkedIn. I think that's just, as you said, it's dangerous and it really does damage your brand. I've had it where I've run a big report for one of my other publications, and one of the salespeople has reached out to me on LinkedIn because they've scraped my email from the report, the answers, and then wanted to then ask me a load of questions. And it was so overly generic that I actually had to respond and help them out a little bit. So I, I think often people will always cheat and jump towards trying to do more as opposed to do better. And I think that's just something that humans do. But again, if you're looking from a brand risk perspective, that's something I can't get on board with. I've worked with a project with a company, and what they basically did was they built all of their personas. They built it off all of their data. They mapped out the part of the journey that they're in. They really understood the company, and they wrote a first draft and got AI to write variations of it. And then they had like split testing, so they could send out which ones would perform the best on email, through LinkedIn, through they had tick boxes already done for iMessage and WhatsApp. And what that really enabled them to do is have like the personal connection, and then they could automate off the back of it. So some people are using it smartly and wisely, others aren't. One thing I would just say is, if you've got a salesperson who can't update you with effectively with their leads and stuff like that, they're going to be prime candidate to do it and to use AI poorly. So for me, it's a case of putting the right guardrails in place, but I would beg people not to let their teams go full pelt on automated AI, because it's just not in a place where it can help people drive business change in the positive light. It's only going to drive it in the negative light in the wrong hands.
And I think we're all getting much more used to seeing it, much more sensitive to it. We're all getting much better at spotting those cliche phrases that mean it's obviously AI generated content. So I think as an audience, we're getting more sophisticated. Interesting what you're saying about sales there, Dan. Maybe AI in sales is the subject for a future pod. That might be one to pick up. What was really interesting this week, there's a guy called Tom Tugendhat who's an MP in the British Parliament, and he stood up and did a little speech this week in Parliament, and he quoted a number of his colleagues in Parliament, and he said, so this guy stood up and started his speech with, "I rise to speak." And then the other guy stood up and he said, "I rise to speak." And he said 3 or 4 cases. And he made the point. He said, "I rise to speak" is not something that we say in the British Parliament. It's an American phrase. And it's really obvious you've all used ChatGPT to write your speeches, and you've not even bothered to anglicize them. You just stood up and parroted it. So this problem is not just a problem of sales and marketing. It looks like there's lots of places where people are getting lazy with ChatGPT, but it's now starting to be obvious and people are starting to look silly.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want an area where people are doing very smart AI personalization and qualification, if you look at Intercom, who've got Thin, they're doing customer support, high quality, solely trained on obviously the data and a lot of inputs and outputs. And Brett Taylor, who's the chair at OpenAI, his company, are all based on outcome-based results. So that means that you don't pay until they have a successful customer support closure. So they know how important the quality and the output is versus just handling more and more, because historically customer support has been a cost center. Now it's going to be a saving center. So I'd definitely check out those 2 companies because they're doing it right and the right way.
Good. It's good advice. So I guess in summary, we're saying, yeah, of course, use AI to help you with ideation. Yes, of course, use AI to help you draft, customer outreach and customer communications, when I can say it. But please, please, please make sure that the final draft is one that you've looked at, you're happy with, and it feels like it's you writing it, not some generic AI, I think is our summary there, isn't it, Dan?
Exactly right. Great. Thank you, Jonathan.
All right, good to see you. I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening today. If you have any questions, please reach out via the show notes below. You can also subscribe to our supporting newsletter released with every podcast. Go to aimoment.co.uk and hit subscribe. We share more important links, run-throughs of the tools mentioned in the podcast, and more. See you next time.